Joining us right now in advance of a big game on Monday Night Football, they're all big games in the National Football League, is the head coach of the Cincinnati Bengals, kind enough to zoom in right now on the Rich Eisen Show for the first time ever. Good to see the coach, Zach Taylor, here on. How are you, Coach? Good to see you.
I'm doing great, Rich. Appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. I've been trying to get you on for a while because, you know, first of all, you're clearly a smart enough guy to lean on someone from my hometown of Staten Island, New York, as you do for your defensive coordinator in Lou Anarumo, Zach. You know, so
yeah, that's one of my biggest faults right now.
Really? Oh, okay. Because just full disclosure, my older brother went to high school with Lou at Susan Wagner High School. I went to school with his sister, Elena. So, you know, say hi to Lou for me. That's basically what I'm saying.
I will. Yep.
Does he? Unlike me, he's got his New York accent from time to time, right? All the time.
Oh yeah, he's got all the New York to him you can imagine. So I feel that on a daily basis. I love it. He's a great guy to interact with, and but he's probably from Staten Island, that's for sure.
Oh, he definitely is. Yeah, you have to cut me off in traffic to realize my New York accent. That comes out then, Zach. That's for darn sure. And plus, I'm glad that you're on so we can kind of work through this, Zach. And I don't know if you thought I was concerned with you coming on this program, trying to make up for those 3 touchdowns you threw against my Wolverines in the 2005 Alamo Bowl, Zach. You know, those are facts, right?
One of my favorite games. Yeah, came from behind, hit a 2-point conversion to go up 32-28. And then we held off on the miraculous finish, which is almost one of the all-time great finishes that nobody ever really knows about.
That was laterals all over the place, right?
All over the place. And Zach Bowman was standing in the end zone for some reason and saved the day on about the 9-yard line. And it's a game I show often because nobody knows the ending because we stopped them.
So what do you mean you show often? What do you mean you show that often?
Well, when people talk about last plays of the game, and it's one that never makes news because no one scored, so no one knows how close it was. Both teams on the field, thinking the game's over, celebrating. I'm at midfield and I'm on offense, and so he was almost one of the Cal Stanford-ish type of finishes,
yes.
But was not. So not many people know about it.
So you show this to your team on occasion just to prove, hey, you got to always have your head on a swivel, be situationally smart, is what you're saying?
I don't know that it's come up in a team meeting,
okay.
But just, with other coworkers and quarterback room occasionally, it comes to mind.
Well, Burrow being an Ohio State guy, maybe deep down at heart, if you scratch away the LSU Tiger in him, he might appreciate you having beaten Michigan, Zach. He might actually get into that. You never know.
I'm sure.
So, again, you having played the position, tell me the first time you realized when you got a chance to meet him that Joe Burrow was the special quarterback that we know him to be, Zach.
I heard a lot about him, before I knew his dad. I knew of his brothers before I ever knew Joe Burrow existed. His 2 older brothers played in Nebraska before I got there. I used to cross paths with his dad in the recruiting halls of Coleraine High School here in Cincinnati when I was at UC. And so I heard a lot about this kid, Joe Burrow, and so started to follow his career when he transferred to LSU. You could just watch the games and know. It's one of the few players I really felt confident that you had a true understanding of the person before you actually met him. And then to meet him in the 17-minute combine interview that we did, verified the things that we'd heard about him, and felt really good about selecting him with the first pick, and it's worked out really well for us.
So that 17-minute interview you had in the hotel in Indianapolis, that when he walked out, everybody looked at each other and said, "This is it," or did you continue grinding, Zach?
I think we knew before that. That certainly was just icing on the cake. And I say 17 minutes. We may have encouraged him to come 3 or 4 minutes early, so it might have been more 20, 21 minutes.
I bet. Well, I mean, coming off a 60-touchdown season like that, and then again, I imagine, because you had a decision to make, and I know I'm hitting the Wayback Machine before we get to the present here, to give him his old college receiver or one of them back. Was that a big was that something that you decided to lean on when it was Jamar Chase time in the draft a couple of years ago, Zach?
Yeah, I think the only question I asked Joe was scale of 1 to 10, how badly would you want Jamar on the team? And he said 10. And there's really not much more need for conversation there. We'd seen all the tape, and we knew how special Jamar was, and so it became a pretty easy selection for us.
Well, I'm sure, but you also could have been, if you will, sorry for the analogy, you're the parent in the room, because your choice was to protect Burrow up front too, Zach, which, as we know, has been a conversation over his professional career. That wasn't a consideration as soon as you as soon as you?
No, it was. I mean, we had all the dialogue you got to have, in the draft room, and everybody voiced their opinion on all sides that matter. And we went to Penei Sewell's pro day, loved Penei Sewell. Went to Kyle Pitts pro day, loved Kyle Pitts. That's the one I went to both of those. I didn't even go to Jamar's. But at the end of the day, you want to be explosive and attack people and give the quarterback weapons. And we felt like we could get the lineman that we needed to help him. And so it's worked out in our favor, I would say.
Zach Taylor here on the Rich Eisen Show. Okay, so let's get to the here and now. What has been off, do you think, over the last 2 weeks for your team, Zach?
Well, we played two really good divisional teams. And so, again, that's part of the early part of the season is finding your identity and finding different ways to win and just steal some wins early in the year before you get into your groove. And unfortunately, we're 0-2 right now, same as we were last year. But this team is made of the right stuff. We've got confidence in what we can do going forward in these next 15 weeks. And we feel good about where we're going to be at.
Okay. And offensively, have things been off because Joe's not 100%? Zach?
We felt pretty good last week. We had 7 possessions, scored on 3 of them, and throw a pick in the end zone on the 4th one. So, when you play Baltimore, it comes down to turnover battle, and you're going to have limited possessions. And so we weren't able to maximize everything we did. But I feel like we're moving in the right direction.
Okay. That was also my sneaky way of trying to get into have you talk about your quarterback's health, Zach. You kind of...
I'm pretty well schooled in this question. He really it's been an encouraging early part of the week. I've learned enough in my 5 years here to not assume anything.
Right.
We'll just take it day to day with him. He's been a little sore early in the week, but we'll see how it goes. Well, fortunate to get an extra day here.
Well, is there a conversation being had about seeing the bye week imminent? I mean, imminent might be too tough of a word, but it is closer than it appears, right? And that you might have a conversation to try and give him the same amount of time off that you were afforded because of how early in the summer that Joe got hurt. Any thoughts about that on the table right now?
I think the number one thing is Joe's health and making sure he's healthy in the short term and the long term. So that's the focus point of any decision we'll make going forward. And talking to him and seeing how he feels over the course of the week, and then we'll get to where we need to get to.
Okay. And then just him in general, have you seen him ever bothered by anything serious, Zach? I mean, other than, the obvious from last year's Monday Nighter, but just other than that, have you ever seen him flappable, Zach?
No, because his preparation is so intense and so detailed that gets him prepared, that he's unwavered by any situation he encounters, and again, that's his edge. That's what makes him so different. That's what makes him so rare. It's unexplainable at times because you're rarely around a person like this who operates like he does. And, so that's just Joe. That's the best way to describe it. You got to be around him to understand him. And we're happy that he's a Cincinnati Bengal.
Well, can you give me a little bit more meat on that, Bones? I think fans would love to know. What do you mean by his preparation? I'm sure, again, you've been around some tremendous professionals and you played the position yourself. What do you mean by what he does and prepares that makes him special, Zach?
Well, I'd say he's still, career-wise, relatively young. He's in his 4th year, but there's a confidence about him that's unusual. Sometimes you get guys early in the league where they're going to yes sir you to death and say, yeah, I got it, when they don't really got it. And he's got enough confidence in himself to say, I don't understand what you're saying. I don't understand this play. I don't want to run this play. And most guys would just yes sir you to death early in the career, and he doesn't do that. And so, again, his preparation leads him to the confidence in the things that he knows, and the things that he doesn't know, he's going to ask myself or Dan Pitcher or Brian Callahan and get some clarification. And, he's unfiltered, and that's what you want. You don't want people just to tell you what you want to hear, especially at the quarterback position. And so it's comforting to know that he's the quarterback and he's going to tell you how he feels.
So you've obviously ripped plays out of the playbook when he says no thanks.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you've done that.
Yeah, that's a lesson I've learned as a young quarterback coach. Matt Moore, the all-time great backup quarterback, Matt Moore told me, quarterback, ask for something, call it, because you've empowered him and he's asked for it, he's going to make it work. And if a quarterback says, I don't like it, even though you like it, don't call it, because then, the game's in the balance and he's a little unsure, undecided, doesn't get it, doesn't pull the trigger when you wanted him to. And so I've taken those lessons over my 10 years coaching quarterbacks and applied them to Joe. And we've got really good dialogue going into games.
Who do you lean on? Again, obviously you've been around this sport for a while, head coach since 2019. Who is your your I guess round table that you bounce things off of, Zach?
Yeah, my father, number one, he was my coach growing up. He's the best man I know, and so I lean on him for all the advice. And my brother's the OC at the Jaguars. We talk very often, and bounce things off of each other. Know that we're going to get true answers from one another. My father-in-law, Mike Sherman, coached for a long time in this league. He sat in these seats before, and he can look right at me and know exactly what I'm feeling and what situation I'm going through. He was with me the other day after the Baltimore game, and he kind of knew what I was going through. So I've got a lot of really good resources around me and guys on staff as well. And so I'm very fortunate that way.
What does Mike tell you about 0-2 and how to handle that sort of thing, Zach? What does he
just
tell
be
you?
true to your team. Don't start being somebody you're not just because, there's some perceived adversity, which we all know this is an adversity. 2-game losing streak's not adversity. There's real adversity at some point in every season that you're going to face. And so, again, just be consistent to who you are, and the team will respond the right way to that, and you'll be able to pull yourselves out of it.
When did you first meet Sean McVay, Zach Taylor, who you're going to see on Monday? By the way, I'm sure you went through all of this at the Super Bowl a couple years ago, but this is the first time we're getting a chance to talk. So what do you got for me?
No, I like talking about Sean. Sean's been great to me and my family, and we met at Shula's. We have the same agent. Shula's at the Combine.
Okay.
I think it's here now. So we met. We were kind of on our way to different meetings with our agent. And then I think I met him one other time before we played the Redskins on opening day in 2014, Dolphins Redskins. And then he called me out of the blue. I saw he got the job. I didn't even know I had his phone number. And I'm sitting at my house, and all of a sudden my phone rings. It says Sean McVay, and he offered me the assistant receiver job and told me I had 48 hours to take the job. I said, great. He called me back 1 hour later. He said, okay, what's your decision? And he just got this energy about him that you're just, man, I'm from Oklahoma. I've lived in Cincinnati. I got to move to LA. I don't know anything about that. That's a little scary for me and my 3 kids, my wife. And but Sean just has this way where it's like, I got to go take this assistant receiver job and move to the unknown of LA. And best decision I ever made.
And did you witness firsthand immediately, apparently, his ridiculous flashbulb memory recall where he would be able to tell you down and distance from something 19 million years ago? Zach, have you seen something like that?
Oh, yeah, sure. I mean, he watches his own tape so much, to learn from his own scheme and continue to evolve it. What are people seeing? And he's just got that unbelievable memory. I can't do that. That's unique to Sean. And again, just assemble that team right out the gate, and put some magic on top of it. And we had a great year and went to the playoffs that very first year.
How much does that inform you for this coming week? Where are you thinking this is what he's probably thinking? So you're going to go this way, or zagging because he'll zig or anything like that?
Yeah, that's the best way to put it. It's you don't want to get it. That was 5 years ago we worked together.
Sure.
And you can look at elements of their offense and our offense, and it's very different. And so again, you don't want to lead people down a road that you're not certain what he's thinking. And so again, there's the little nuances you can help with, but overall, I leave it up to Lou and his staff to put the best plan together.
Okay, last one for you. What do you say to Bengals Nation, to the Who Dey Nation that might be really nervous right now about Burrow? No, I'm serious. 0-2. They saw Burrow limping around. I mean, and it just might feel different to them based on last year's 0-2.
Yeah, it's okay. We got a really passionate fan base, and so I understand why people would feel that way. There's a confidence in our locker room and our coaching staff that we know what we have and we know what's in store for this season. And so we're gonna take it one game at a time and find a way to get some wins, start stacking them. And we've been here before, and so we know the path to get out of this mess.
Coach, thanks for the time. Greatly appreciated. Let's do this more often. Now that we finally got past the 2005 Alamo Bowl together.
I'll never get past it. I'll bring that up every time I see you, Rich. I appreciate it.
Take care of yourself, Zach Taylor. Appreciate the time. You got it. That's the head coach of the Cincinnati Bengals, Zach Taylor. Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.